Come on, Steve.
Bunsen.
Burner.
Dolly.
Machine.
Internal.
Combustion.
Why do we need
Steam.
Petri?
Dishes.
Oscar.
Base.
Isaac.
Newton.
Transplanting.
Hello.
Hello, Steve.
Hello, Nick.
It's good to be back.
Hooray.
Welcome to another podcast, everybody. Hope you're all doing all right out there.
Yeah, we're back on the Science Shed.
We're back on the Science Shed, and we're in another auspicious location.
Yeah, that's true. Last time we've been in the Royal Society before, haven't we?
We have.
And we've been in my flat.
And my flat.
Which are both very auspicious places.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah, standing on the shoulders of giants.
Do you remember the view we had in my house outside the window where we could see...
Of your garden?
Well, it wasn't so much a garden as a broken fence and a dead black bird, which my cat had probably killed 3 weeks previous to that.
Yeah, the view we're looking at now is very similar to that, isn't it?
It's amazing, the view is
Yeah,
today.
so we're in Guy's Hospital today in central London.
We're in the tower. So I did my PhD in Guy's Hospital, Steve,
Mm.
many years ago.
Yeah.
But I was never in the tower. I was in a small building downstairs, which is on about the 4th floor. On the other hand, we're now on the 28th floor,
Yeah,
Steve.
and there's spectacular views across London. Maybe we should take a picture and tweet it.
Definitely,
All right, we'll do that.
100%, yeah.
We'll do that.
And we can see over to Canary Wharf. Number 1 Canada Square is flashing in the distance. I can see numerous other buildings. I don't know what they're called. Could be the cheese grater,
Yeah, you can see the
cigar,
the, Palace of Westminster as
the
well.
dildo.
The dildo.
Because they've all got stupid names, haven't they?
Well, right by the Shard here, right? We're just too close to see it.
Can't see the Shard.
I know.
It's in the other direction. Oh, but never mind. It's amazing view, and you can see all the way out probably to like the Thames estuary and beyond.
Yeah, well, we're it's good to be here. I'm excited to we haven't done a podcast for a while. It's been a while.
It has, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of the first one since we've got some feedback from the first couple, really, isn't it?
I think really, yeah, that's true.
have you-
Because we were blocked up. Do you remember we talked about being blocked up last time?
Yeah, exactly.
But now we've let all that go.
Now we're free.
It's all
to do what we
dropped
want
out
to
of
do.
the podcast can. Exactly, yeah. And we're back to tell you some more interesting stories and anecdotes, aren't we?
Indeed. Well, should we get on with it?
Yeah, let's do it. Here we go.
Hooray.
Hello, Steve.
Hey, Nick. Nick was just telling me the last time he did the podcast, he was hungover drunk.
Well, that's when we were in your place and we went and had a lot to drink the night before, more than I'm used to. And the next day, I was kind of not feeling. I was feeling like that kind of hungover that you get when you're
tired hungover.
tired, but also you haven't got like the headache and the nasty
Like,
thing. You're
like
a
you
bit
might have a bit of a cry at any point. That kind of thing. A little tears
emotions
gonna
are
pop out.
magnified. But it was kind of like I was half cut, I think, the next
still,
day.
you think?
I think so, yeah, because I think my liver takes so long to process everything these days.
All right.
As I approach my 29th birthday.
29th. How many years you been having your 29th for?
Oh, several. Yeah, but I think that's I was just I was maybe a little bit tipsy, and this time I'm not so tipsy.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I don't know
hopefully
how
that'll be better for it.
I think probably.
I feel like we're getting a bit better at this now. I get a bit at the mechanics of podcasting. It took us a while to get going, but I
Well,
think
you're
we're getting
definitely better at it, Steve. But
Yeah.
I just kind of sit here like a kind of useless potato behind my my popping shield. Is it called
there. Pop shield, I think.
Pop shield behind that, while you operate your kind of futuristic looking. Well, actually, it looks like a very old mobile phone.
Yeah, it does. A little sound recorder. Yeah, it's good.
So yeah, but yeah, I think it's. I'm starting to feel more comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. So you start off feeling a bit self-conscious, don't you? They're like, I remember the first one we did in your flat with your girlfriend was upstairs listening to us, and I definitely felt a little bit self-conscious.
Did you really?
Yeah, just because it's just a bit weird, isn't it? A bit kind of
Yeah,
revealing.
It is a little bit, and you get in a different mindset when you're doing it as well. It's kind of like different to normal talking.
Exactly.
Because you can. There's a palpable kind of sense that people are maybe listening to what you're saying.
Maybe.
So I can't say some of the things that I would normally in conversation.
Oh, well.
Like why I've got such a big phone these days.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll have to leave that up to the listeners' imaginations, I think.
Yeah.
So, science. So I just got back from Hong Kong. I was there for a conference. We spoke about that before.
Hong Kong?
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I did know about that.
Yeah, it's really good.
What happened in Hong Kong at your
A
conference?
couple of few things. So one, I felt it was really hot, like really hot.
Well, it's Hong Kong, man. It's
I know.
almost on the equator.
I know it's it's kind of 38 degrees and 80% humidity.
A lot of
kind thing.
sweating.
A lot of sweat. Well, most things are air conditioned.
That must be quite problematic for kind of pale, pasty,
Exactly.
strange scientists.
That's right. Yeah,
Especially
didn't
from
do too
Europe.
well. Didn't do too well, but I was all right. Yeah, it was good. I felt really tall. Like I was kind of 20 centimeters taller than everybody else there.
Was it like in that video with Sophie Ellis Bextor? Have
Yeah,
you seen that one?
Yes, exactly.
When there's a tall man who gets in the taxi and everyone's from must have been
exactly.
in about 1999, that video.
Yeah.
Because you're quite a tall guy, Steve.
I'm about 6'2", 6'3", something like that. So not ridiculously tall.
You're taller
but-
than the average Dutchman.
Is that true?
Yeah, it was in the news today.
And how tall is the average?
The
Dutchman?
average height in the Netherlands is precisely 6 feet.
Really?
They're the tallest
Is that the
nation in the
mean?
world. Yeah, that's the mean.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, I don't know whether it's the mean or the median.
Okay.
We can come across all those interesting statistical definitions later, maybe, Steve,
Hooray.
off air.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's about 6 foot is the height, the average height in Holland.
Okay, so I'm taller than that. Well, I was definitely taller than the average height of the average person from Hong Kong because it was I did feel massive.
Do you know where the smallest women are from?
I'm going to guess Japan,
No.
Vietnam,
Are we going to go through like
Asia.
20
It's gonna be
names?
Asia-
It's
Asian
not
countries.
Asia.
Is it not Asia?
No.
Oh God, I don't
Shall I
know.
tell
then.
you?
Yeah, go on.
It's at Guatemala.
Wow.
The average
I would have
height.
never have guessed that.
I didn't believe this when I saw it, and we should look this up and come back to it on a later date.
Right, just
But
fact
the
check.
average height of a woman in Guatemala is less than 5 feet.
Wow.
It's really small.
So there's going to be some 4'2" around or something.
I don't know, man. I don't know. They're obviously a very small people. Maybe they're malnourished or something.
Small people.
The average height
You
of
sound like some kind of plantation overlord.
I think that's a PC thing to say, small people, isn't it? Anyway, in Britain it's 5'5" for a woman.
Okay, I would say that's small, but maybe
Yeah.
maybe old people are smaller.
Yeah. Anyway, so you were saying you're in Hong
Yeah,
Kong.
so I was in Hong Kong. I was there for a conference. I took my poster, my little picture. Remember we talked about a little picture? It was quite funny, and I gave that. It was good. It was enjoyable. I've been to kind of better conferences. It was good to see everyone. It's good to see some really interesting work going on. And it's always good, like we said, to kind of interact with those other scientists and the people's papers that you've read. But it was really, really good. I got to see a few people, got to chat to some old people that I used to collaborate with, we used to work with when we were in Stanford. So they've kind of gone on to start their own labs, and we've kind of caught up with those, and which was good to see everyone and chat about what the science is.
So set the scene, man. What's going on in? Because like
Yeah,
I've been to a biology conference recently. Well, kind of, and maybe it's different from how many. So was it like a room of people standing around?
Yeah, exactly. So this is generally I think there's two classes of conference. There's the very big, very broad conference, right? The kind of Comic-Cons of this world, right? So like the biophysical meeting, for instance, is on the order of-
Comic-Con.
Yeah, that's the biggest conference in the world.
Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But it's probably more fun than your Hong Kong.
Well, not to me, Nick. Not to me. Not to
I bet
me.
it was.
So yeah, there's kind of normally you have those very large, so typically thousands of people, and this one was slightly different. So this was smaller. There was about 200 people there, 190 or something.
That's not very many. 200 people.
No, but it's intentionally that. It's quite a very prestigious conference to even get to.
Wow.
They don't allow, for instance, big professors with big research groups. You can only bring one person from your research group.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to apply, and it's not dominated by a few kind of very large names.
What's it called?
It's a Gordon Research Conference, so it's called Single Molecule Approaches to Biology. And so their goal is they kind of set the conference away from, generally they're kind of away from big populated areas and things, because they want people to kind of actually interact with each other and not
Hong
feel...
Kong's kind of like
Yeah, I know,
quite a big
but it was in the
population.
university, right, which is right at the end of the MTR. So it's a little bit of a hassle to get in.
Oh, right,
okay.
okay.
But you don't do it if you did it in Colombia, for instance, people would be tempted just to skip out and just go and have fun in New York, right? Whereas typically previous ones I've been to have been on a mountain in Italy or
Yeah, well,
things
that's
like that.
kind of when I think of Gordon conferences. That's usually what I think of. Hong Kong is I think the most densely populated place in the world.
It's the fourth most populated city.
So, and it's also a fun place, man. So if I went to Hong Kong and there was a boring conference with 200 boring people,
It's not boring. It's exciting.
I'm only joking, but you might be tempted to go out and have some fun in.
Yeah, we did
Hong Kong,
a bit
island.
of fun. It's quite expensive though. You've been, haven't you?
I have. I don't really remember. I wasn't there for long
expensive.
enough. I was in and out.
I went to the 10,000 Buddha temple.
Did you go there?
Yeah.
Did you walk up the steps?
Yeah, you called it the 1,000 Buddha temple, and I got there. I was like, oh, this is the 10,000.
Oh, I'm sorry to be so inaccurate, Steve. The counting of my Buddhas. Did you sweat profusely walking up the steps?
Absolutely. It was really hot. Yeah, it was good. Did you go there? You kind of have to like walk through the back of an industrial estate to kind of find it, don't you?
Yeah, I went to some shopping centre in the middle of nowhere.
And then there's like a sign just hand painted on the edge of a wall somewhere.
Yeah. But there was science there, Steve.
The science was good. There was lots of science there, yeah. So it was lots of people that kind of do similar things to me, and there's really interesting, a few good ideas. So me and my postdoc, we were thinking about some ideas that came from it. We've already gone back and tried to implement those. We've ordered some DNA. We're going to play with some kind of...
I could provide you with some DNA.
I bet you can, but we need a very specific bit of DNA.
My DNA's pretty specific.
To you it is, but not to my experiments. So yeah, it was good. So exactly the reason for going, to kind of inspire and to kind of like generate new ideas was really good. So we got the opportunity to... And even, you know what, Nick, I don't know if you find this at conferences, but even just the concept of being away from your office and being away from all the admin and all that kind of stuff, and you just sat there thinking about your science is just really, really productive.
I know that's definitely true. Like if you're in a talk or something like that. I mean, sometimes at work, we have seminars in our department, so that's people from outside come and talk about what they're doing to the local people. And if sometimes I think, well, I'm too busy to go down to it. But often when you go and sit there and you kind of think, well, this is a boring talk, and then your mind switches off, and then you start thinking about it.
So if you had a weekly meditation, that would work just as well, or just like half an hour to sit in a room.
I think a weekly meditation wouldn't work because in a talk you're kind of stuck in there, aren't you?
Right, you can't.
And you sometimes they're extremely good, of course, but sometimes I get so bored that I'm just thinking, well, how can I amuse my brain?
Yeah, so
my mind wanders.
So there was there, and then we had series probably about 20 talks over 5 days.
Did you talk?
I didn't talk. No.
Why didn't you talk?
Because I applied really late for this conference. I only applied like a month before. And the idea of the Gordon conference is that people show data that's not quite published yet, and you have to sign a little disclaimer saying you won't steal it, you won't cheat it. And
really?
Yeah, it's quite good. And like they ban.
But how are they going to prove that? You might have already thought about it before you sign the thing.
Well, then everyone will hate you.
Oh, that's not very fair. Well, if you've got a really good idea and you've been working on it for like 2 years, and then you go to the Gordon conference and some Muppet's presenting it,
a terrible version of it,
and you signed a thing that I'm not going to do. I've already done it.
No, I think that's all right. But I think the idea is that because if people
it's an honour, it's like an honour thing.
Yeah, because people feel that if you're going to go there and you're going to reveal something that isn't published yet, that there's a risk that could be stolen. But it means that what you're doing is you're presenting the absolute most exciting idea you have in your lab, and it's not just something that's kind of a year old that was published a few years ago. So it's good for seeing new data. And so there's kind of series of talks. Everyone talks for kind of half an hour to say 50 minutes. Yeah. And then you go to then there's lots of drinking really, and just kind of socializing, which is actually kind of integral to kind of chatting to people about what they're doing and the problems they have. Yeah. So you went in a room, and you necked a load of, what were you drinking? Like cheap wine. And a bit of food. Get drunk. Talk about single molecules in medicine. Biology. Oh, what a riot. It was fun. Stop insulting it. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I'll have to tell you about the conference I went to, but let's have something else first. Here we go. So Nick, I was at the conference, right? And then afterwards I went on holiday. I went to Vietnam for a week. I went on a kind of boat trip down to Halong Bay. And it was really good. And I was there, and there's quite a lot of mosquitoes and things in Vietnam. And I was thinking, like, people put on DEET when you go on holiday. Insect repellent. Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, I've sprayed that like in my mouth sometimes. Right. So, but I was thinking there about scientifically. I was like, well, what is it and how does it work? Right. So I started going down a bit of a rabbit hole on how DEET works, and it's actually quite interesting. You want to hear? I do. But okay. I'll tell you what, before you start, it doesn't work on midges, right? Because I go on holiday to Scotland, the west coast of Scotland. Yeah.
You've experienced midges.
I have, yeah,
Oh
particularly
my
in Scotland.
God, it's a nightmare. It doesn't matter how much insect stuff you spray on your face, your head, you will never get rid of them. The only way is to wear like a special thing over your head.
Well, they say, don't they, in
It makes
Scotland
you
there's
look like a
two
dick.
there's two seasons. There's rain and midges, and that's it.
I think you can have two together, actually, to be honest.
Okay.
Anyway, tell me why DEET doesn't work for midges.
So, well, I don't know why it doesn't work for midges, but it's actually quite a whole area of research. So DEET, for anyone that doesn't know, the chemical formula for it is a diethyltoluamide, right? So it's quite a small compound. And originally, people thought that it binds, it kind of masks the scent of octene 2-ol, which is a compound that we secrete in our sweat, which kind of smells like kind of sweaty meat kind of
Really?
thing. Yeah, so this is what they thought.
So it's called diethyltoluamide.
Toluamide is the
right,
chemical
Steve,
structure.
There's a challenge, right? I'm not a chemist.
Right.
I'm going to attempt to draw that
Yeah.
afterwards.
All right.
And then you can take a picture of it and you can put it on your Twitter feed.
Well,
and you can laugh at people. You can get people to laugh at me.
Okay, well that's
All
good.
right? I'm gonna have a go at it.
Any opportunity to get people to laugh at Nick, I'm up for.
And you know what? I'll be so amazingly happy if I am able to do it.
Well, I mean, so it's not so for people that don't know how nomenclature works in chemistry, it's not too bad. So toluene, which
Well,
is
don't tell me. I'm going to do
Okay.
it. I want to do it as
All
it's
right.
like a little challenge.
Okay, fine. All right, then we can have a little nomenclature.
Anyway, get
talk
on with
mo-
your story about DEET.
Okay. So
So it disguises fleshy.
So this is
sweaty
originally
smells.
what people thought. So they actually thought that DEET was binding to the receptor in mosquitoes that they have that's specific to this compound, this octene 2-ol, which is a kind of an alcohol that we secrete in our sweat.
So hang on a minute. So the DEET goes into the mosquito,
Yeah.
binds to something that the mosquito normally uses to sniff us out.
Exactly.
Right.
So it can't smell us anymore. Basically, that was
Okay.
the hypothesis, and that's what people thought.
It's like air freshener in the toilet. You can't smell the
Exactly.
the nasty.
Yeah. So
nasty
so,
business.
so DEET is the equivalent of like a Glade plug-in fresh or something for a mosquito. So,
Man,
so
do you reckon that like humans eventually start to, like sometimes I associate lavender with the smell of
of the toilet.
a really bad one. Do you think that might happen to mosquitoes as well? They start to get desensitized.
Well, we don't know. It's also what they thought is not that it smells of something. It's just that they can't smell. So it might not be masking it. It might not smell of anything in and of itself. It's just that they can't smell the octanol.
Right.
compound.
Yeah.
So we don't know if it smells like lavender or whatever to a mosquito. But they actually know the neuron that it binds to in the mosquito's brain.
There's only one neuron.
So
in there.
yeah, it activates a single neuron.
That is. See, I'm always amazed
Isn't
at
it
things
nuts?
like that. Yeah, because you forget that small animals don't have many cells in them. Like we've got somewhere in the region of 10 trillion cells in our bodies.
I thought it was okay.
Well, okay, 100 trillion.
I thought
Whatever.
it was less. I thought it was about 1 trillion.
Well,
Okay.
God,
All
you're
right.
you're doing your finicky thing again. What's an
Oh,
order of
right.
magnitude between friends?
All right, we'll call it. All right, go ahead.
But it's some animals like people do it work on experimental worms.
Like
They've
C.
got
elegans
about
and things, yeah.
exactly. So C. elegans is a type of tiny little worm that you can grow in a petri dish. It's got around 1,000 cells, and we know the whole
all of the neurons,
family
yeah.
tree of all of those cells. So you know
Yeah.
where they come from and where they are. Anyway,
So originally people thought it was this, and then there was a paper. So I started digging, right, and so there was a paper in Nature from 2013, right, where someone went in and they found these what do they call them? This highly expressed conserved receptor called IR40A, right, which is what they thought.
they're always really catchily named, aren't
Yeah, it's
they?
terrible, isn't it? Which they thought was actually, which was the receptor responsible for this thing that stops mosquitoes being able to smell us. And actually, they went and did a big kind of screening of about 100,000 compounds computationally to try and find similar classes of molecule. And the goal would basically be there, just instead of using DEET, which has potentially some toxic side effects, it also dissolves plastic. So if you try and like spray it on your shoes or something, it melts your plastic.
So what they did was they thought, well, there's a chemical called DEET. It does something. Let's like kind of look at loads of other similar structures and see which ones might do the same job, but without dissolving plastic.
Oh, yeah, and actually they might smell better, or they might have they'd be less toxic, and these kind of things.
All right, so they're trying to find better things than DEET, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is that they thought they found the specific receptor that it bound to.
Yeah.
So there was a big paper in Nature, which is obviously a very good journal. And
I've heard of that one.
And literally last week, in June, someone published a paper saying it's all bollocks. So they retracted it. So this paper from 2013 in Nature's just been retracted.
It's nonsense.
Yeah, and actually, when you read it, they wrote a little blurb, and they said the retraction of that. So the paper's called "Odor Receptors and Neurons for DEET and New Insect Repellent." So at the end of the paper, they conclude that there's these compounds, different classes of compounds, which they still think is true. But because they actually studied this effect in Drosophila in flies, because they've got a very highly conserved receptor instead of looking directly in mosquitoes, which is very common in biology. But yeah, so they repeat it, and then there's a whole other paper, Nature Communication, which came out in June this year, called IR40A neurons are not DEET detectors.
Oh no!
So we don't know. We've got no idea.
So I don't understand. So the original paper,
Yeah,
that got retracted.
yeah.
Who decided it was?
So the authors basically tried to repeat some of the experiments, and they wrote I don't think there was any foul play here. I think they genuinely thought what their findings were true, and they wrote this this kind of retraction letter saying we're retracting this article because we no longer have the confidence in the data that support one of our key conclusions.
That sounds like Dodge City, man.
So basically, there was another paper saying that they couldn't replicate their results.
Oh right, someone else published and said this is nonsense, and then the original authors.
Well, they didn't say it was nonsense. They said they couldn't do it, and the original authors went back to try and repeat it. And so they said, upon learning of these other findings, they did not find defects in the DEET aversion to the IR40A mutant flies. We repeated many of the original behavioural experiments. Although we confirmed significant behavioural differences in the cell-silenced flies, we were unable to replicate observations of behavioural experiments using IR40A. Therefore, with the exception of the main author, Pinky Kane, we no longer have the confidence in the conclusions.
Hang on a minute. The main author was called Pinky Kane.
It's a good name, isn't it?
Pinky Kane?
Yeah, Pinky Kane.
So was that person from Disney who did the experiments? Is that why it went wrong?
Was it in Finding Nemo? Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason. Steve.
So we are tired, huh?
A little bit.
A little bit. So we're in a post-Brexit age now. We did a podcast prior. We've been podcasting so long now that when we first started this, we were in the European Union, and soon we're going to be out.
We're not out of it yet, though, are we?
No, but we will be.
Do you think?
So here's a question: do you think it'll be good for science?
No.
You don't think in any way? There's going to be no silver lining.
Well, I've started to make a list of positive news from Brexit.
Really?
Yeah.
And what's on the list?
Do you want the first one on my list? Maybe I should dribble them out slowly, but
yeah.
Maybe for academics, because of there's fewer foreigners coming in the country, it will be easier for a British person like me to get a job.
No, come on, that's not what you care about. You don't care about that. I'm
just saying. I'm just making a list about it. So imagine.
So you're saying it's less competitive?
Yeah. Which is clearly not a good thing. But what I'm trying to do is look on the sunny side.
This is
from a personal point of view.
If we had a personality swap, this is normally what I do.
But basically, right, in the UK, I think it's something like 40% of academic positions are filled by
non-foreigners,
UK nationals.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So if anyone should be voting UKIP,
it should be the academics.
It should be bloody academics, yeah.
Because they are literally coming here to steal our jobs.
Absolutely. God damn people.
So the flip side of that. So I've got a different. So up until
first
now,
on the list.
Okay, that's first on the list. So up until now, it's been very easy to employ someone from Europe in my lab or wherever. But it'd been much harder to employ someone from outside, so the US or China or wherever you pick. So maybe the fact that kind of science after the UK leaves the European Union will be more competitive because of that. Maybe that because now it's a level playing field, so it doesn't matter. So you can imagine an instance where someone could be from Portugal, for instance, and they could be nearly as good as some guy from China or some girl from China. And you might be like, well, I'll just take the person from Portugal because it saves me a lot less paperwork than it does if I have to go get them a visa or whatever.
Oh, that's absolutely right, and that's what the Brexiteers will have been arguing.
But do you think that's true?
And that's true for lots of other, not just science, any professional jobs. That's what they're arguing.
Yeah, sure. So actually, it's making it more competitive because you're diversifying your talent pool.
Yeah.
Because it comes from. So I think so. I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying to
So
find.
that's a good thing.
I think maybe we'll
yeah,
see.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I mean, there are arguments against that as well. Like part of Europe is you work together as a European club, and different countries specialise in different things. Like, and the UK was quite science specialised, so all of the countries in the club, they pay into a big budget, right? And then it gets competitively allocated.
Yeah.
It could be regionally. So UK's got a good infrastructure.
Yeah.
So it means it gets quite special. It gets more of the money in
For science.
for science. So that means
But less for
there's
farming
more,
or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get people in doing science, and then you attract the best people
To Europe
from
as a
Southern
whole.
Europe. Yeah. So you think about all of the. I mean, I personally have had some excellent South European and East European students.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like the best of the bunch, and they come to the UK because we've got a much better science infrastructure, arguably, than Spain or Portugal or Italy. Not necessarily true, but you do get some very good students from there. So the UK
so
benefits.
You're saying it's being part of the club.
Yeah, it's
means
partly
that we can specialise in one thing, say for instance science, and that Germany can specialise in something else.
Well,
and,
that's the whole point of isn't that the whole point of a union of countries that. That's what happens. You specialise in certain areas and you benefit mutually.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, think about Germany and France. I mean, the French just drink nice wine.
Go on strike.
Yeah, and the Germans like to go on holidays there. The Germans do all the work. Job done.
Brilliant. Well, we really are.
I don't really mean that.
Yeah, that was a
French
joke.
people.
We love you, really. Yeah, so I worry, but hopefully we can see some positive change from Brexit. How about what else is on your list? What else you got?
There's nothing. It's a blank page apart from that one.
Well, hopefully next time there'll be more on your
Well,
list.
I don't want to get all serious about it, but I feel really sorry for my colleagues and students at the moment who are having to live in a world of uncertainty about their futures, not knowing what the future holds, where they're going to be going, what they're going to be doing, and I don't know. It's pretty sad, really, generally speaking.
Yeah, it is pretty sad. So hopefully hopefully some good things will come from it.
Yeah, they will. Everything's
they
going to be
will.
fine.
Should we go get a beer
I'm
now?
going to get whiskey.
Whiskey.
What's annoying Nick?
Steve, something annoyed me last night.
What's annoying Nick?
I watched a program on the TV called Naked Attraction. Are you aware of Naked Attraction?
I'm not. No, I don't really watch TV. What's it about?
Oh my God, where do I start? It's a television program which is, first of all,
By the
features-
way, you can see Nick's actually kind of irritable. He's visibly irritable.
I'm not sure whether I'm irritated or just shifting around in my seat out of excitement. But basically, it had a scientific thing in the background that was so buried as to be, totally nonsensical.
Is it kind of like Gillian McKeith science, that kind of
Oh,
thing?
it was worse than that.
Worse than Gillian McKeith?
I
Well,
know,
that's a
that's
pretty
a-
low
I
bar.
know. Basically, it's on Channel 4. Channel 4 often shows naughty things.
Indeed.
And it's quite shocking.
Eurotrash.
Yeah, there was one once. I remember they had one called Naked. It was like a week of naked stuff.
So just
And they had a game show with Keith Chegwin hosting
naked.
it totally naked with his fella out.
I just can't. I can feel that the cringe is palpable.
It's
isn't it?
unbelievable. I've never seen my mother so amused.
Right. Well, whatever blows your hair back.
Oh.
Right. So,
Keith
Naked Attraction.
What happened to Keith Chegwin? Yeah, so this program was similar in the same sort of kind of
It's like
quite
kind of
shocking.
the lowest basal.
Oh,
kind
it
of
was
like-
so low. So they got two people on. They got a man on first and a woman. I didn't actually see
Yeah.
all of the man bit, so I saw the woman bit. And basically, she comes on. She's a woman, and they have 6 people in 6 cubicles, frosted glass cubicles. So you
Right.
can't see what's in them.
Right.
And the premise of the show is that the person who's there,
So it's like blind date.
blind date, but they pick based on
Their body type.
their naked, the other people's naked bodies.
But is it just the silhouette? Is that you see, or do you see everything?
Let me explain.
Oh, right.
So the first stage was that they lifted up the cubicle glass until it came just above the genital area.
Oh my gosh. Nick,
And then they showed close-ups of the people's ghoul is, basically.
Right.
So they
So wait, sorry. So the contestants are women and the guys, or is it vice versa? Or is
well,
it
this
same
woman,
sex,
no,
or?
this woman, she was flexible.
All right.
She
So,
was
so the
two-
choice.
She could go either
bisexual,
way.
okay.
So they had 3 women and 3 men,
Right. Okay.
and so she looked at some vaginas first, and kind of described them in quite detailed.
Oh my
the
God.
shape, the biology, the position of the labia, the amount of hair. But this was interspersed with scientific comments about pheromones and how pheromones can get trapped when there's more hairy stuff.
I just did a literal eye roll there. I don't think I've ever done an eye roll. I actually just did it looking at Nick. This is awful.
Oh my God! And I was watching it. Maybe, this didn't annoy me. It annoyed me. Some parts of it annoyed me. Some of it just made me laugh, titillated me a bit. I don't know.
So what's annoying is when they're kind of purporting to have some kind of scientific angle on here.
Yeah,
right? Like
that's
it's
what
just
they were
that's
doing.
what that I think that's like.
And-
it's fine if be risible for the sake of being risible, but don't tart it up as something that's more than it is. It's just
Anyway,
titillation.
she had to sort of like in kind of true kind of reality TV shows sort of give one of them the axe at various points, and then they had to walk off. And so she ended up with one. They gradually exposed the body all the way up to show.
Did they get
show
to the
chest
face
there.
eventually?
They eventually get to the face, and then with the last one, there's a talking bit as well, so they get to listen to them as well. And then
Right.
she makes
That's
a
quite
tune.
important in a relationship, isn't it?
Well, this kind of was part of it. I
Maybe
think
it's
the
just the
idea was
evolution
that
of Tinder.
you're more compatible if you pick based on the physical characteristics of the body.
Or at least you have some.
That's what the idea was, and I can't refute that. Maybe it's true, but
It's a hypothesis. I'll
we'll
give them
come
that.
back to it. But it was
Let's not come back to
it was
this.
certainly an eye opener or eye closer.
Yeah, let's never talk about this again.
Oh, Steve, you should have seen some of the shapes of these people's ghoulies.
That's what we've become to. We're on the 4th or 5th or 6th podcast already, and we're just complaining about the shapes of ghoulies.
Anyway.
Science shed! We're in the science shed! Science shed! We're in the science shed! Come on, Steve!
Bunsen.
Burner!
Dolly.
Machine!
Internal.
Combustion!
Why do we need
Steam!
Petri?
Dishes!
Oscar.
Base!
Isaac.
Newton!
Transplanting.
Science!
Well, bosh. There you go. Another one in the bag, Steve.
Just nailed that.
Another podcast.
Just retire that one.
Yeah, so that's it till the next time, folks.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you like it, please like, favourite, subscribe, all that social networking jazz. We're on SoundCloud and also on Twitter. I'm Steve the Chemist, and Nick's the Evans Lab. So say hello.
Yeah, we'll tweet some stuff soon.
Yeah, and see you next time.
Bye, everybody!
Bye!